Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Charlie Nicklin. I'm the Chief Exec of IAgrE, and I'd like to thank you all for joining our May presentation. I'd like to welcome Richard Charles for our lecture today. Richard heads up after-sales training, dealer readiness and business development for AGCO. He spent his career in ag engineering from apprentice to dealer service manager. He joined AGCO in 2013 as a field service manager, and then 6 years later took on responsibility for the UK and Ireland after-sales training. In a restructure in 2021, Richard's department became instrumental in the creation and delivery of the new curriculum and learning pathways for AGCO globally. Richard's presentation today is going to take us through AGCO's approach to worldwide training. For AGCO, this means recognising market differences across the territories and tailoring their technician training accordingly to ensure a consistent quality of after-sales service. If the attendees could all mute themselves, that would be appreciated. If you would like to ask questions, then please use the chat function at the bottom of the screen. And then at the end of the presentation, we can unmute you so you can ask in person. Okay, I'll now hand over to Richard.
Lovely, thank you, Charlie, and thanks for the opportunity to share some of our exciting innovation that we've started to roll across globally. So I'm just going to share my screen. So yeah, as Charlie mentioned, my name is Richard Charles. I'm the after sales training manager plus other responsibilities for the UK and Ireland as part of what we call the customer support training organisation. What I'm going to talk to you today is just some of the innovation and changes that we've made in recognising and aligning our training globally to enhance our technicians across the world over for all of our dealers. Very much specific to technicians at this stage, but a lot of what I'll talk to, we will start to share across our other departments as well. So ultimately, it is the importance and consistent of quality training on a global scale. I joined the training organisation in January 2019, along with my manager, William Ollie. We joined that training organisation at the same time. And after being in the organisation for 6 months, we sat down together to try and identify what we had as issues across the different regions. Now, William was only responsible for the European region at the time, and I'll go into where we've got to from a global point of view in a moment. So we sat down and we discussed various different problems and different opportunities and where we needed to move the department forward. So just going to start with a brief introduction for those of you that don't know who AGCO are, because there's a lot of people that don't. AGCO is not really that well recognized as a brand in its own right, but ultimately AGCO are the parent company for a lot of core manufacturer brands in the industry, such as Challenger, Fendt, Grain and Protein, Massey Ferguson and Valtra. And they've been in business since 1990. So for 30 years, basically, AGCO have been purchasing and acquiring these different manufacturer companies, agricultural machinery manufacturer companies, including some precision farming companies, and now more recently, a lot more software type of companies to really sort of look at what different types of services we can provide our customers. We today are approximately 13 billion in revenue. We employ 23,000 people globally. That's internal. And we have around about 3,200 dealers worldwide across 140 countries. So just a brief overview of who AGCO were, if you didn't already know. So as I mentioned, we sat down and we discussed all of the issues we could see in the training organisation. And ultimately, with dealer feedback as well, in 2021, we released what we would call the Talent Pipeline Project. Now, that was to do a full review of all of the different elements we see from a technician and a training point of view. What we found was that there was a huge inconsistent of skill levels at junior and apprentice level across the world for technicians specifically. We had very different training, learning paths, curriculums, leading to very inconsistent in skill level at our dealer network globally as well. Certainly different regions would deliver different types of training, different types of content across all of the different countries to the technicians. And ultimately, when we talk about our products, A Fendt 700 series tractor is a Fendt 700 series tractor, whether it's positioned in Australia or it's in Germany. So this is what we sort of identified, and you would see such a difference in content, duration of courses, how we deliver training on certain modules and certain systems. We had a huge amount of variances in our system, so our LMS system. So Europe would have a format or a governance of one way, different markets, different countries, even within Europe, would have a different coding for a certain course. And that was the same the world over, whether we talk about North America, South America, APA, or in the EAM region. So it's hugely complex. We had a pull approach. And what I mean by a pull approach to training is that we release a load of courses within our system, and the dealers just go in, search for the courses they think they want to do, and then register or consume the courses as and when they need to. That in turn, because of our systems being slightly complicated, caused a lot of dealers a lot of problems over the years. I'm talking, 11, 12, 13 years of this has gone on, and this is why we really wanted to try and make the difference that we're sort of making. We also had no external benchmarking in place. So we would deliver what we felt was good training. But was it good training? Was it the right training that we were delivering? We had no way of saying it. We just, a technician or a training instructor built a course in their individual way, and that's where the inconsistencies came from. Our systems as well for user registration, such as our dealer portal, was very complex and probably wasn't giving us the right information. So we didn't even know really how many technicians we had at what brand level, let alone what skill level within our own systems, which caused a lot of inconsistencies. And again, that was a global problem because we were using different portals in different regions across the world. So we've made a lot of changes. As you can see, that it was a very complex world of how do we know our audience? How do we know where they are to really truly know how well they're actually supporting our customers at the end of the day? With all this in mind, and this was sort of preempting a few changes to the organization. Oh, sorry, I didn't mention that all of that complex the complexity of what I've just mentioned was then duplicated across all of the different brands. So Fendt, for argument's sake, would train and create material to a very different level to what Massey Ferguson would do, to what Valtra would do, and to name just our core brands. So it was tripled to that effect as well across the different branded regions. So if you had a multi-branded technician working on Fendt, Massey and Valtra, which does happen certainly in the UK large dealers, then their experience of those different brands and those different training courses would differ hugely. And that in turn is a problem, and it almost overcomplicates the problem, the products that we're talking about. So in 2021, we had a restructure called, internally, it was called Advance. And this gave us, to a lot of people working in the company, they didn't quite take it as an opportunity, but from a training team point of view, this gave us an opportunity to really globalize what we were doing. So William was in turn promoted to global customer support manager, and then inherited all of the regions from a technical training or an after sales training point of view across the world over. He now has 20 dedicated facilities within his remit, and we look to train up to 30,000 technicians globally every single year. This also gave us the opportunity to restructure internally and how we wanted to then really drive our standardization. And how we did that was create two key functions within that global organization. We created a centralized training information and content development team. So that team was built up of different branded experienced people at different modular experienced people. And what I mean by modular, transmissions, engines, electrics, hydraulics. And created a team where we could then centralize all of our content that we deliver from a training point of view for all of the products and all of the brands. That allowed us to align all of the good delivery mechanisms that we would need, and then in turn into the second function that we have within the team is the training delivery. So we're not only just aligning the content and the resources that we need to deliver training for, we're also aligning that within the delivery teams. And what I mean by the delivery teams is the training center staff, the instructors across the world that are part of those 20 dedicated facilities. We looked at various different innovations as well, and COVID in some respects helped us learn what is good virtual training or good online training. And also, because we had our armed force with COVID and had to go virtual, learn what was bad about those type of modules and where it fits and where it doesn't fit. It's very easy to create an e-learning module from a transmission point of view that can last 8, 9, 10 hours, but it isn't a very good learning experience. To teach a technician on a transmission, you really still need to get very much instructor-led at a training facility with nuts and bolts. That is definitely the better way to increase someone's skill level. That said, though, we don't need to do face-to-face system type training, or even some of the smaller product look-arounds, product variants. Just a couple of hours virtual module can suit for those types of training, instead of bringing a dealer into one of our facilities and having to travel. So we look to balance that across our new structure, and that's what the content team have been guided to do, is create the right modules for the right delivery mechanism to be able to cater the world over. So the goal for us really with these two teams has always been to deliver the best-in-class training experience for our dealers and customers, and ultimately to raise that skill level, take the best of what all the regions were doing, and then replicate it across the world over. So really have quality and consistency when we talk about a Fendt tractor. That experience, that training that is delivered, whether it's in Australia or Germany, is exactly the same. And the knowledge that they gain should be exactly the same, where it was hugely different before the advanced structure and before we could actually get a good global view. So how we did this. So within the two teams, what we've done is we've created a global curriculum. So we've taken all of the products, we've taken all of the courses, we've aligned all of the titles. So when we talk about a core technical, which is our first, almost what you would have called a fundamental training, the first course that someone would enter into a branded journey, a Fendt technician employed by a Fendt dealer, the first face-to-face course they would attend would be our Fendt core technical. That now is across all of our different brands. So it is an easy and understandable, you know what you're getting for. So you would have a Massey Ferguson large square baler core technical, a Massey Ferguson tractor core technical. And that provides a good indication and a good overview, technical overview of that product range or product offering. And that is aligned across all of our different markets. The challenge is always that different markets have different product offerings, but as long as the titles align, that's fine. So in North America, we can have a Gleaner Combine core technical, which is the first course that someone would do that services Gleaner Combines. It's still aligned with the global curriculum. We've centralized all of the all of the item codes and the systems to go in line with the global curriculum. So when we talk about an item code within the system, it's like a part number for a course. Now, if we deliver a Fendt core technical, we want to know where that's been delivered, how it's been delivered, and who's received that course globally now, so we can report on it. So we had to restart all of our item coding to run in line with the global curriculum. So then that allows us to report on all of these different modules and courses on a global scale. If everyone had a different part number in the system, it would be very difficult to work out what's been delivered to who and when. So in line with the titling, we had a restructure of all of our coding. We've also, where we can within the global curriculum, we've understood that there are a lot of different dealers that would actually be multi-branded technicians. And where we fell over before is potentially, if I take an example of the AGCO Power Engine, the AGCO Power Engine is the AGCO Power Engine, whether it's fitted into a Fendt tractor, a Massey Ferguson, or a Valtra. Previously, we would have had a Valtra engine course, a Fendt engine course, a Massey Ferguson engine course, where potentially we're talking about the same engine with the same content. But in order for a technician to tick the box for that curriculum, they would need to have attended that engine course by brand 3 times. So where possible, and with a more common platform approach with some of our products now, where possible, we've modularized some courses, such as the AGCO CVT course, certain power shift transmissions, and certainly the AGCO Power Engine. And that means that someone can be part of a 3-branded curriculum, but only attend that AGCO Power Engine course once. It would tick the box then in the different branded curriculum. So when even a multi-branded technician can be part of 3 branded curriculums, but ultimately would only need to attend the one, and it would tick the box for the rest. So they really only need to attend the specific branded content courses and then the modular courses once only, and it would provide that recognition. As I mentioned, we noticed a huge inconsistency with junior technicians, and certainly from a UK point of view, we're leading the way in AGCO with an apprenticeship scheme. Now, AGCO have an apprenticeship scheme started with Massey Ferguson for over 20 years. We've been quite fulfilling with that, and it's been a success for many times. But we noticed just a few issues coming from it, and from dealer feedback, basically they were telling us that the apprentices coming out of our college were not fit for purpose. That was very much down to the land-based colleges, as I'm sure some of you know, struggling to get the right resources to deliver the right training on. And ultimately, there's no manufacturer sort of led engagement with a lot of the land-based colleges. We've recognized that. We also had a few other problems with regional issues. So we've started to invest now with partnering land-based colleges, certainly in the UK, but other technical schools globally, and investing in resources to put into those training partners to allow them to deliver AGCO-specific fundamentals or basics of the job. If you're a 16-year-old coming in as an agricultural engineer, you can learn the basics, but on an AGCO resourced transmission. So if we say we're talking about a CVT transmission, the AGCO students in those partnered colleges or training partners would learn about CVT transmission on the Fendt CVT insert, which would then hopefully make them more fit for purpose coming back to the workplace after their block. Everywhere we can, we've put a resource in place for each of those modules to run in line with various different global qualifications and global standards, as we would call it in the UK, to ensure that at the best possible chance the colleges can teach on the products that we need them to learn as and when they go back to work. We provide training to all the lecturers. We provide system access to all of the lecturers and across the world over, so they can actually start talking about our systems within that scheme or within the early life of the apprentice or the junior technician, to really give them the best opportunity to make them as fit for purpose as possible as and when they return to their workplace. We've aligned heavily with the global MPI process, and what I mean by MPI is new product introduction. Now, you might be surprised to know, but we would release a new product into the market, and normally training would be the last people to know about it, or the training material would be certainly the last thing to come out of a new product. Potentially, it's happened before that dealers would receive new products into their dealerships without having any prior training at all. We simply can't allow that to happen. We need to be training a certain amount of people at the receiving dealers before they see the product. So then when they're demonstrating or servicing it to the customers, they have a good understanding and a good knowledge of that new product that is coming to the marketplace. So we've certainly got involved with that new product introduction journey, and we are now part of every single what we would call gateway. So when an operator's manual is created, the training material behind that is also created. The same for the workshop manual. The training material for all of that is through those same gateways and through those same steps. So we can then really ensure that we're training the right dealers on the right product before they actually receive it. We also then have resource and product allocation because we're part of that journey right from the word go. So that should help us provide much better support to our dealers and our customers when we do introduce a new product into the marketplace, which we were certainly very poor at before. And then one of the largest challenges really is the system alignment. As I said, we were doing something very, very different globally. So it was almost impossible to know who has attended what in what region and what skill level they are. We've changed the systems that we use for user data and then training registration to allow us to create what we call a learning profile. So the dealers can tell us what brand the technician is responsible for, what type of products, and we can then set the courses accordingly. By having that information, we can move away from what I mentioned, the pull approach, and actually truly provide a push approach training plan, which will ultimately tell a technician, you only look after wheel tractors for Fendt. These are the applicable courses to you that we need you to complete to make sure that you have the right information for the right time, with the right knowledge bank to support the customers. That is one of the biggest challenges we faced, to be fair, because the world of IT is always so busy. But we have got that in place now, and we are moving forward with it quite heavily. And that will allow us far better proactive reporting to really monitor and gauge where our technicians are, where our staff are, and to really sort of, emphasize the fact that we need them at this level, and sell that back to our customers ultimately to say that we are world leading. Move that a minute. So it's an exciting change. It's been a lot of work, but it's all for the right reasons. And the right reasons is that we ensure that all of our products are trained on and supported by the right dealer staff at the right level. But to sort of really enhance a lot of this, we know that we have an issue in the industry that we're not selling ourselves. We need more technicians, and this is a global issue as well. It's not just in the UK, it is everywhere, whether it's Germany, North America, South America. So by having all of this in place and having this, what I would call the footings in place for a successful future training plan, the next level really is to sort of sell the job. And what we decided to do is, sorry, I've jumped a gun a little bit. So this is just a slide just to show you some of the training partners of what we're affiliated with. And as I said, the UK are leading the way with this. Our apprenticeship scheme now is across 4 colleges across the region, but we're also starting to do this globally as well. And this is the investment plan that I said with the training partners to really start that journey, that AGCO journey, right at the start of their career, right at a 16-year-old straight out of school. Exactly the same globally. Now, we've tested the waters with North America and South America and Canada, and this will just keep growing and growing and growing world over. And ultimately, what they're doing is taking the cartridge system that we've created in the UK and replicating it across different institutions in the world. Australia, China, Germany and France will come later. They're a little bit more developed than some of the other regions such as China and Australia. But ultimately, we'll have a cartridge system of resources and training material that is delivered world over at an apprentice or junior technician level. That's where I wanted to get to. So within the global curriculum, what we created, this is completely across all of our brands, but it's the same format and it is aligned across all of our brands. Now that's great that we've done that, and it's aligned, and everyone should, irrespective of what brand and what dealer and what country you're from, you should understand what courses everyone needs to do, and we know what level everyone is. You know what level everyone is as well. But what we felt was it's still ultimately the Will Ollie and Richard Charles show. And to get a lot of our markets on board with that, it can be quite a challenge. And what we decided to do is actually, are we right? Is this the right way to deliver training? Is this the right method, the right content, the right duration? So what we decided to do was look outside for a third party. And where we ended up really, certainly from a UK point of view and wider, is City and Guilds. City and Guilds have got what they call an assured program. It's basically an assured benchmarking of different courses and different levels. So we've invested in City and Guilds to come in and look at us and provide us some consultation across all the different modules and the content that we're creating with these two functions that I mentioned earlier, how we deliver training, how we create training, and how we then benchmark it moving forward. So we've joined the City and Guilds Assured program, and ultimately what they will do is, as and when a technician passes the level 1, completes the courses within our curriculum, the curriculum is up to us, different modules for different brands and different products can have different courses in them, of course. But ultimately what they do is that they know that our content is aligned globally, irrespective of products. They know it's the same quality. They know it's the same quality of delivery. So they will benchmark our level 1, level 2, level 3. What we call it actually is foundation, professional, and expert as a start, and then master will come on later. Master, we're still unsure of what type of content we need, because that can split up into more soft skills or management type training, or potentially just become master of where you want to be, or even maybe move it to another outside sourced level of engineering benchmarking. So what we've done across all of our brands is, as and when a technician goes through our curriculum globally, they will receive a online CV, an application on their phone or a web page, which will then show that they have achieved a certain level for a certain product or brand group for a certain level. And we will provide them an assured diploma service technician for Fent at foundation level, and that will be theirs, and that will be aligned globally. So for instance, if today we had a technician working on a Fent tractor on the HS2 railway, health and safety person comes up and says, are you qualified to work on this product on this site? Today they would have to go back to the workshop to get any certificate that they may have had that has been provided by AGCO, or any training that they have to prove the fact that they have attended some level of training. Tomorrow, they will be able to log into their City and Guilds provided online application and show, yes, I am a City and Guilds benchmarked foundation, professional, expert technician for that specific brand. And that carries a good level of kudos in itself. Another benefit of doing this is, we know that you had the LTA scheme, and I think Charlie told us that it's running its course. We recognised actually that the LTA scheme was a very well put together scheme, but it was only really known within the industry. We know that we need to do more to attract people from automotive, HGV, or other different types of industries with similar sorts of skill sets or transferable skills. The City and Guilds badge definitely would be recognised by ex-military service leavers, by ex-automotive, by ex-HGV. And if we can provide that is a globally assured certification, it's not a qualification, it's just a certification, but it's a benchmark by City and Guilds. It proves that they've received the right type of training on the right type of product, and then rubber stamped by City and Guilds that the learning journey they have followed is aligned. And as I've said, that is a sell, or I feel it's a sellable thing that our dealers can sell to people maybe looking to join their organizations from other industries. And there is also another selling point to this as well. As I've said, this is a completely global format, so a global curriculum. Now, potentially we have dealers that do shared schemes. So you might have a technician leave a dealer in the UK to go and work for a dealer in Australia. Today, it's very different to gauge their shared knowledge. Tomorrow, an Australian technician who is a foundation level for Fendt, who wants to go and work for a UK dealer, that UK dealer will know exactly what courses and what level they're at compared to where the technician that they may be sending over in their place. And again, it globally aligns everything. We have master technicians and people all over the world, but now we will have a global professional foundation or expert level of technician across all of our brands to really raise the kudos of what we're trying to do and prove that that our technicians have followed the right learning path. So just to summarize, really, the main goal, and it's in the title of this slide here, really, this is a slide I ripped off William, but ultimately our mission, the Global After Sales Training Team, is to support what we call dealer readiness as well. So we ensure that our dealers have got the right level of training before potentially we start to allow them to sell certain products. That's something that they've done in North America for some time. And that really is to show that we are moving to be a farmer first, because we do have a duty of care for our customers and our farmers. And if those dealers are not trained on those products that they wish to sell, then that experience, that support and after sales experience will not be a very good one potentially. This is why we need to train early on MPI type products, and this is why we need to have a concise benchmarked training plan that is a global world over to ensure that that quality and consistency can carry on and is available to all of our dealers, and in turn to support all of our customers in the future. And we ensure that we deliver this through our AGCO Centre of Excellence across the world over. So we're looking at all of our facilities, ensuring that the resources are in place, so the consistency and quality of what we deliver is there permanently, basically. So not only are we members of the Assured scheme for City and Guilds, but what I did forget to mention, and it's very important on point 3, is we're empowering dealers. We have the accessible content. The professional delivery is an element that we may have slipped up on. And this was recognised by myself. So I inherited the training school, as I said, in 2019, and all of the trainers disappeared. And to quick fix, we needed to pull some trainers from different industries. I now have a group of trainers in the UK that are professional instructors. They're not ex-technicians. They haven't had a lifetime of experience in the agricultural industry, but they have been professional instructors on a technical basis, whether it's for HGV, automotive, or ex-military. The method was to provide professional instructors, and then we as AGCO can train them about our products and our industry, and that seems to have worked. Some of the dealer training that we're delivering now is, from in my eyes and from what the feedback we get from our dealers, is the best we've ever delivered, certainly as AGCO. And this is solely because my instructors are trained to be an instructor. They are level 3 or above qualified as professional technical instructors. So how can we do that globally? How can we do that for all of our instructors and replicate that? We've just put in for approval to become an approved centre for City and Guilds, where we can deliver certain qualifications from City and Guilds. So we will be able to deliver to all of our instructors in the UK and wider the City and Guilds education and training qualification at a level 3. We can cater the material in-house, so it's more AGCO specific or agricultural specific, but ultimately the framework, the standard of that qualification needs to stay the same. What I'm saying is that we will educate all of our instructors on how to do proper quality training. The best technician in the world does never make the best instructor, because 9 times out of 10, they struggle to stand in front of people or to deliver that information to a group of people. That's where the training to be an instructor comes in. And hopefully it raises the kudos as well of our department and wants people to join the training organisation, because we will give them something of a qualification that is theirs to keep forevermore, to develop them in their future endeavours. So it's not just about what we deliver to dealers, it's about how we can get that professional delivery across as well. And I think that is my 40 minutes. So I appreciate your time. Thank you very much for listening. It's an exciting world. We've still got quite a bit of work to do, to be fair, but ultimately that's where we're going, and that's what we're trying to achieve as AGCO when we talk about training.
Okay, thank you for that, Richard. So yeah, there's a couple of questions. The first one was from me, really. How did you, when you look at skills and training of technicians across the world, which regions had the biggest divide and which regions had the closest alignment?
To be honest, Charlie, they were all very, very different. Probably that you could put similarities to the UK and maybe North America, but the product offering in North America was very different. That the content was quite low because they didn't have a Fendt tractor. Now the Fendt tractor is quite an advanced tractor, so certainly in Europe, the training and the amount of training we would have been doing compared to North America would be a lot more. So if I put it in perspective, in North America today, this is a difficult conversation I had to have with them, but today they have master technicians for AGCO in North America. That master technician may have gone to a technical school for 12 months and got a qualification as an agricultural engineer. They come into the AGCO world and start training. They would have received 13 hours worth of e-learning and 1 4-day instructor-led course. That would make them a master technician for a Massey Ferguson tractor. That is far less than what our apprentices would receive at college today, let alone the 4 days, the 2-day, the various different instructor-led courses that we would deliver here. But they were very modular types. So we in the UK had a very multi-branded organisation. So we did already do quite a lot of modular type training, AGCO Power Engine course for argument's sake. That's how North America would have been as well. So similarities there. I think one of the biggest challenges is the resources in the different places. Like Germany have a wonderful training centre, and it's resourced up to the eyeballs for Fendt, but not so much for Massey Ferguson and Valtra. If you go to France, Beauvais are resourced up for Massey Ferguson training, but not for Fendt and Valtra. And it goes on and on and on. That alignment needs to happen as well. That's what we're going through. But there were so many differences. Everyone was creating all of their own material, to the point that you could even say it was very different by instructor. And this was one of the main problems I inherited. All the instructors left the UK department, not because I was taking it on, I'll add, but those courses were built by those individual instructors, and they were the only ones that could deliver it because there were no notes against it. There were no, it was just in the instructor's head, basically. This is why we've done this aligned content team. So they have to create a course basically. They create and plan a course of what we're going to deliver. Then they create the presentation content that the instructor would use. There is then a trainer guide. So any trainer could come in and follow the guide. And then there's a delegate workbook, which is a smaller workbook, which then contains all of the worksheets, all of the workshop tasks that we would go through to try and future-proof that a little bit. So if we did lose an instructor, someone else could learn that course ultimately and then run it, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And of course, translating it into all the different languages around the world.
It's a challenge, yeah, very much.
Yeah,
but that was happening anyway, you know. That was happening. We've got the instructors still. We just give them a template, a framework to work to. There is always, you know, if we can give them 80% of a course, there's always going to be 20 or 10% that we need to just tweak for more regional stuff because of health and safety and fire exits, and you know, there'll be some regional variants there. But if we've got 80% of that content done aligned centrally, then we're definitely a further in front.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Alan Plum, have a question?
Hi there. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we got you, Alan. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I was particularly interested in the developments and use of AR and VR. You mentioned it in one of your slides, obviously.
Yeah.
I just wondered, you know, what extent are you using that in the technician world as well as users, and the challenges and potential, really? So open-ended question.
So we're exploring it now. It is definitely a buzz. For me, it's definitely a buzz. The content team are exploring it. They've just actually separated part of that content team into a purely digital orientated team. I'm still sat on the fence with it a little bit because it's very nice and there's some lovely, dare I call it a gimmick? It's not a gimmick, but I was a technician myself for, you know, years, and I struggle with the fact that you could use that for transmission training because you've got it in front of you and you can play about with the application. I think there's definitely a place for it. Whether we all invest in you know, goggles, and every dealer has its own training room for that purpose, I'm not sure. I think it's still nuts and bolts heavy in our industry, to be fair. But certainly systems and product walk rounds, and from a sales point of view, they're definitely using it from a, you know, for customers. And instead of having a product there, you can go and sit in the cab and do everything you need to do from a VR and AR point of view. So it's still very much early days. We're not using it in technical training as much. Definitely parts, product appreciation, and sales, they would be using it more heavily.
Are you developing those systems in-house or bring expertise?
So we've got two ways really. We've got a team of people that would be developing it in-house, but we also we work alongside another company who look after a lot of our training material and technical publications and the likes of, who are very experienced in that sort of thing for the automotive industry. So we use them on a bit of a consultancy basis as well from time to time. But ultimately, yeah, it's always to build the expertise in-house because you can use third parties, but you end up having to tell them what to do on every element. So it's actually easier to get someone that knows a product, knows AGCO, to then use the software.
Yeah.
Train them to use the software, if that makes sense.
Thank you very much.
I did see a fantastic demonstration of augmented reality for diagnosing systems. So where the technician would have the goggles on, and in front of him, obviously, or he or she, you could see the piece of equipment they were looking at, but it was annotated. So you'd look round, and as you looked round the piece of equipment, it would annotate what the individual components were. You could touch the component and it would bring up data. So if you touched a valve, it would show you which ports are which and pressures and things like that. And it was a real clever bit of kit, but obviously it's reliant on having a good software connection, internet connection to do it as well.
Well, that is a challenge, and we've got a few issues with that as well. You are reliant on having a good internet connection, and unfortunately, it probably isn't quite there yet. If we get 5G rolled out, and it's the UK is not too bad, but if you go to Germany, their 4G's not very good at all. So it's and that's our, you know, that's our biggest market really in Europe.
Yeah, it works well in factories and static applications, but not out in the middle of fields in the middle of nowhere. That's the problem, isn't it?
It's great, and I don't want to do it down, calling it a gimmick. It's great, but you know, is it actually going to make us any better? I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah. Okay, Will Flittner, you got a question?
Hello. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Headphones working? Will. Cool. Yep, got you. Thank you.
Yeah, great presentation. Absolutely fascinating. Having got quite a little bit involved in this kind of stuff recently and working with product on 2 continents, I'm just fascinated by, either from a product or a sort of technical standpoint, how it works with rolling out global training for global product, even though global product doesn't necessarily always end up global from experience due to local kind of modifications and problems, and how I'm recently going on a training course and some of it being very relevant and some of it being, oh, well, that's clearly not relevant for you guys, even though it was part of a very well structured bit of training, if that makes sense, how you get around that.
Yeah, it's if we talk about the minutiae of the product, it is a challenge. The key really is to set the standards and the governance and the quality of what we deliver for those products. A Fendt tractor ultimately is a Fendt tractor everywhere, even though it wouldn't be a global tractor, to be fair. But then we look at Massey Ferguson, their product offering is vast. Yes, you have a different product that you're training on in India, for argument's sake, but as long as the material and the concept and the, you know, when we talk about hydraulics, we talk about it here. When we talk about engines, we talk about it here. The flow of the course, the content, the quality of delivery, and ultimately delegate workbook, trainer guide, presentation material is of a standard with a standard item code. You're never going to standardize the actual nuts and bolts of a product within that training course, but it's how you plan that course is what we're sort of globalizing, if that makes sense.
Okay, so thank you very much, Richard, for an excellent presentation. Really interesting. It's a hot topic at the moment, is technicians and colleges and all that good stuff. So it's very much appreciated. Thank you so much for taking the time out to do that. I'm sure everybody found it really useful. So thanks to everybody for joining us today. I hope you will join us for our next lecture on the 13th of June, where we're going to be joined by Tom Saunders from Michelin Tyres, who's going to be talking about the impact of different tyre technologies and what that effect has on soil yield and profitability. So thanks again for everybody to attending, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.